we will then have to respond to or align our operations to, just to look at what is emerging based on those consultations, and then we will deal with it. The issue of government advertising agency and whether or not it is curtailing the freedoms of the media. Now, I believe the intention of the government, or introducing the government in advertising agency to regulate or to administer advertisement of public sector entities, more so the ministries, was well-intentioned. In my understanding, the intention was to ensure optimal utilization of budgetary provisions for advertisement. This again is an issue we can look at, and depending on whatever feedback we get from the stakeholders, I believe in a participatory approach to leadership, Mr. Chairman, then we can re-engineer everything in that space at that point in time, based on matters arising therefrom or incidental thereto, Mr. Chairman. On the issue of computer misuse and cybercrime bill, and of course the whole space of social media and whether or not we should regulate social media in conformity to the laws, fundamentally, as a matter of principle, I believe in personal discipline and self-regulation. That is the starting point. As a matter of courtesy, we know we have got the national values which all of us are incumbent to align to. We need, first of all, to sensitize ourselves on these national values so that all players, the social media included, act and exercise their freedom of association with utmost responsibility. I would, however, as much as we have got the laws and regulations, not a strong proponent of curtailing media freedom. But the way forward is that within the confines of the law and based on the output of stakeholder forums that I intend to initiate, we should be able to develop a common position on the way forward. But we have got the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Bill 2018, which actually gives adequate provisions for governing the operations of this space, Mr. Chairman. Subsequent amendments have also been made to propose to this bill through the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Amendment Bill 2021. So I believe from a legal, regulatory and proper policy perspective, we have got all that we require to ensure that this space is adequately regulated, but fundamentally without curtailing the freedoms of expression as espoused in the dictates of our constitutional dispensation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'll take Owen Bayer. I'll take Mary Masse. I'll take Raso. I'll take Mule and Naisula. Yeah? You want to go the most? Okay, Owen.
All right.
Let's step down.
Okay.
Give to the Honorable Dawood and Raso, they want to go to the most. You want to ask questions and wait for answers, or then it will make no difference?
We want to do this answer.
I thought you want to throw in a question and leave us to take the answers. Okay, then okay, I'll give you.
Thank you.
I'll give you with Raso and Mishi.
Yeah.
Mishi also want to go the most?
Yes, Friday.
It's
Yes.
Friday today.
Yes, you finish, then I can excuse you as we go on with the rest. Oh, and I hope you don't mind. Matters of faith are very sensitive.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Let me congratulate the nominee. Your predecessor, C.S. Musheru, introduced the Ajira program, which has not gone out to all constituencies of this country. In your position, if you are confirmed, do you think you will continue with that Ajira program and expand it, or you're going to do something more radical than what C.S. Musheru did? Secondly, regarding internet, connectivity. I remember the President Ruto talking about internet connectivity for the whole country. How will you achieve it, and are you thinking of doing it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Owalo, you have been doing some work for government and quasi-government institutions,
Yes.
particularly in the area of strategic plans, balanced scorecard, job evaluation. But within the same form, you have said that there's no conflict of interest. What are you likely to do? Because in case the House approves your nomination, you'll be sitting at an elevated position to actually influence jobs to be given to your company. How would you avoid that? The other thing is about KBC. KBC is a depository of the history of this country, and it is the mother institution that has given birth to all other media houses. What is it that you are likely to do that it does not just become an archive, but also a leading media house, like what we see the BBC has happened to the BBC over a century? Thank you, Chair.
Mishi Mbogo.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, as per Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, they have said that they are going to reduce the cost of making phone calls and internet, and also allow Kenyans, and especially the youth, to access online platform so that they can access job opportunities for entertainment, for businesses and other use. I don't know how viable is it going to happen, because the last regime, where His Excellency was the Deputy President, you promised to give laptop to all the students in our schools, but it never materialized. I don't know how different are you going to do it right now to ensure that this one is achieved. The other one is on e-learning as a remedy to ensure that we reduce the cost of education. But I would also want to hear whether you're going to extend this in terms of adult education centers, where so many Kenyans who could not access education during their early ages, now they want to be literate. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Eliud, you can quickly answer those short, precise questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Ajira digital program is a fundamental and, in my view, very feasible proposition. Yes, we will continue with it because it is actually a mechanism of leveraging on our digital platforms to create jobs for the youth. If we enhance the ICT infrastructure in place, Mr. Chairman, we should be able to have this Ajira digital program rolled to all parts of the country, and with the intended rollout of 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, we should be able to facilitate access to the Ajira digital program in all parts of the country. With respect to internet connectivity, yes, we will enhance this. How do we do this, Mr. Chairman? One, the starting point again is the ICT infrastructure. Ensure that through the digital superhighway, we have got reliable and stable and extensive ICT infrastructure all over the country. And then once we have done that, we come in to see ways and means of lowering the cost of internet so that we have got access to internet all over the country, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, ceteris paribus, the cost of internet, like any other product in the market, is a function of the inputs that go into the productive processes. If we lower the cost of ICT infrastructure, we should then be able to end up with affordable internet everywhere, up to the village and even the household level, Mr. Chairman. On the issue of my hitherto extensive consultancy experience within government and SAGAS, and whether or not or how I will handle that moving forward, Mr. Chairman, I strongly subscribe to the principles of good governance. I understand the fact that if I assume office as CS, I cannot continue undertaking consultancy for government. As we speak, I've already given firm instructions to my lawyers to evaluate this position and see how fast, upon assumption of office, if I'm cleared, I can then vacate the consultancy space for government, Mr. Chairman, and this is something that I promise to do. There will be absolutely no conflict of interest on my part with respect to consultancy assignments, more so with respect to specifically the execution of these assignments by the firm where I've been the managing consultant, Eliud and Associates. With respect to KBC, I fully and exclusively agree with the honorable member that something needs to be done about KBC. Mr. Chairman, it is ironical that KBC, with its strong brand and wide network of infrastructure, is today punching below its weight in the marketplace. This will be one of my key areas of intervention if I come into office as CS for this ministry, Mr. Chairman. So what do I intend to do? One, I intend to revitalize the operations of KBC, first of all, by rebranding it. I don't quite understand the reason that informed, first of all, the change of name from the Voice of Kenya to the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Mr. Chairman. You know, there are certain very simple, basic things you can do and just change, turn over an organization. Just by changing the name of KBC to and reverting it back, for example, I'm just giving a hypothetical example, to its hitherto Voice of Kenya. That stands KBC in good stead to be seen as a market leader in that sector. Simple things, you just rebrand it. Two, we can strengthen or leverage on ICT to re-engineer the content of KBC so that it gets effective positioning in the market. Three, we need to revitalize the infrastructure of KCB so that it is in tandem not just with market needs but also benchmarked with global best practices in that industry, Mr. Chairman. Those are some of the interventions, and I promise, without fear of contradiction, Mr. Chairman, that the issue of KBC will not just be one of my thematic areas or key result areas of intervention, but I would also want to be held accountable by virtue of having a very clear performance indicator as far as turning KBC is concerned. The issue of cost of internet and creation of jobs, yes, I believe I've answered this, but I can just come up again and give more value proposition to my earlier answer. If we enhance the ICT infrastructure and ensure that we have got adequate skills through the digital literacy program, not just for the students, but also the teachers and also other market players, such as the health sector and the public at large, we should then be able to leverage on ICT to enhance efficiency and effectiveness in our production processes, not just to bring down the cost of living, but also to create jobs, Mr. Chairman. Issue of laptops, yes, this is something that I believe is doable, and if in any case we will do it. Through the Konza Metropolis, Mr. Chairman, there is already a rollout of distribution of these laptops to school. But it is not just an issue of distribution of laptops. It must be in tandem with simultaneous undertaking of a massive e-literacy program at all levels, Mr. Chairman, so that the demand in the market is responded to, Mr. Chairman. The e-learning for adult education centers, this again, just the same way we are going to have the digital villages targeting the youth, we can equally do the same for the adults, Mr. Chairman, so that we really have a truly digital economy without unnecessary segmentation of that marketplace where we have some lopsided interventions where perhaps only the youth are benefiting, but we leave out the adults, Mr. Chairman. So yes, it can be done.
Thank you, Eliud. Owen.
All right.
We can release. Yes, sir. Mary, I'm very clear what I'm doing, Mary. I had given Owen Bayer, yourself, I was going on, then they raised the issue of going to the mosque. So now I'll give to Owen, you, then I'll give to the team at the back, I'll give to Naisula, Gikaria, and Mule. Please ask one question each so that we manage our time well. I think the gentleman is doing reasonably well.
Okay. Thank you, Speaker and Chair. My question on Nigeria has been responded to, but I would like to focus on something you said when you were telling us about yourself. You said you're an expert in organizational restructuring and strategic planning. And in that vein, you showed us how you have been involved in almost all ministries in this country, developing their strategic plan, strategic plan or ideas about how to carry out some work. But seemingly, having said you did all that, this government, the past government, past regimes, didn't seem to have touched the lives of people, despite your infusing those ideas. And the cost of life went high, cost of living went high, everything else didn't go right, and yet this government seemed to have been exclusively operating on your ideas. What value do you bring to the new government? What is it, what new ideas do you have that will permeate government and make life better, reduce the cost of living, make life good for Kenyans? And what went wrong despite your ideas? Thank you, Chair.
Mary?
Well, thank you, Speaker. Through you, the nominee. One of the other pledges that we gave to the Kenyans through the Kenya Kwanza pledges was the mainstreaming, was the need to mainstream the development of arts and culture. I'm talking about theaters, music halls, art galleries, into the infrastructure development program. We all are aware that we have a lot of talent out there, and to the members, I know each one of us has had to support an artist. Where I come from, they go and record music in Uganda. So my question is, as Cabinet Secretary, what are some of the areas you'll prioritize, and how will you address the challenge of funding the infrastructure projects to unlock the potential of the creative economy? And I offer you 5 acres of land in Teso South to start one for Busia County. Thank you.
Yes, Naisula?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Owalo, how do you facilitate the inclusion of students from the rural communities or those that are in far-flung areas who don't have access to modern technology and internet connectivity, just so that there is equity? And Mr. Chair, if you'll just allow me to add this, that having worked at KBC, I don't think that rebranding is the main problem. It has been rebranded and rebranded and rebranded before. I don't think that is the main challenge. You might have to relook at it. But I want to also hear about the staff. You have to look at their motivation when you look at promotions, their salaries, just so that KBC is not only an incubator of good talent and then they move to the private media houses, but you should actually aim to retain the great talent that is at KBC.
Good.
Nakuru East.
I am impressed, Mr. Owalo, by what you've done for on the aspect of the pro bono. You know, sponsoring Gor Mahia, AFC and others. How I wish that that amount of money would have been used at these small clubs in Siaya village for you to be able to, you know, to tap talent, because as you have said, and I've seen some of the articles that you've written on how the government should come in and save AFC and Gor Mahia, which is something that is okay, but how I wish you would have gone down to the village. And my question is about if we digitalize services, government. When I was doing my course, we were told as we also digitalize, then the aspect of cutting employment is also very huge. As you digitalize, then you reduce the number of employment, because if things were done manually, you could see how the number of employees, and yet Kenya Kwanza is there to create opportunities, job opportunities, and to reduce the unemployment percentage. So how are you going to balance as you digitalize vis-a-vis, killing job opportunities that are brought by that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. This goes to the nominee, and my question goes by what is in the public domain, which is the unearthing of state-owned fiber optic network project, whereby the lender, who is Exim Bank of China, is said to be in debt of 21 billion Kenya shillings, and the access of the project documents, contracts signed between locals and international, has been an opaque and has not been very clearly exposed to the public. As a cabinet nominee, will you be in a position to give us a clear openness on this project, together with device management system being installed in communication mobile for Kenyans, which might lead to serious surveillance of Kenyans without their notice? I know you might not want to comment on this because it's an issue between the Communication of Kenya and the Supreme Court, which they need to pronounce themselves. But your view as an expert of management, are these realities, when you, if you are confirmed by this committee, to bring to light these two kind of projects to Kenyans to make sure that we are safe?
Eliud, I think we can take the remaining 5 so that you can answer all of them.
Okay.
Where questions of overlap, you just
harmonize, yes.
Yeah, you harmonize.
Yep.
Amisi, then Kosing, then George, then Ferdinand, then Mukami.
Thank you.
One question each, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. The nominee, you started by describing the various types of markets, from the monopolies or oligopolies, and touching on monopolies that have controlled the market here in Kenya. Most citizens become suspicious of the monopolies that exist because they basically cause inequalities, and they wield a lot of economic power. They exploit, factors of production, labor and capital to the disadvantage of the other new entrants. Do you think it is a common threat to telecommunication in the near future, and even in the media? Because when you focus so much on one state media to the disadvantage of the other, in a very highly competitive global environment, is this a threat, monopolies?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Nominee, my name is Honorable Kosing David, MP for Poko South. I didn't say my name earlier. Mr. Chair, the nominee is coming at a very critical time. Should this House, through this committee, approves him? And there has been a bit of some controversy back and forth, particularly on the marginal areas of this country, which of course is known as arid and semi-arid areas or counties, which then is about 70-80% of the country in terms of network, Honorable Chair, for purpose of communication, security, and so on. And what's the controversy? The controversy is that, for example, Safaricom don't want to do network or build masts there for people to access network. Why? They think that it is not economical, because then people cannot, or maybe they cannot get enough money from the people living around there for purpose of communication. And therefore Celtel, Telcom, and Safaricom are not interested about this area. 70% of the country Now, Honorable Owalo, should you be, what will you consider? Because there's this fund called Universal Service Fund, which was established by the people of Kenya because of that, so that this fund can be able to build networks in those areas so that Kenyans can access network. But nothing much has been done. What will you do in your 100 days? Will you promise this house that in your 100 days, because millions of those Kenyans living in those areas now are listening to you and watching and saying, what will you do? Will you take that one as one of your performance contracts from ourselves and from myself on behalf, and say you will be able to take this fund to where it is supposed to have been working, which is those areas which people consider uneconomical, and yet there are people of Kenya living there. Thank you, Chair.
George. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Nominee, we represent rural constituencies, and a while back we were encouraged through CDF to construct ICT hub centers.
Inu ni Mutongoi TV.